Yeah, go ahead. All right, so you're just gonna be saying that God exists. So first of all, God just means necessary being, right?
Sure.
So what does necessary mean there?
Necessary means that you exist in all possible worlds.
Okay, you exist in all possible worlds. So
You
most types of
exist in
modal
all possible worlds.
axioms, yeah. So most modal axioms would just say necessity means it can't fail to attain, but for some reason, you're gonna be saying that necessity here just means it's just in all possible worlds. So
If
it's
if,
gonna
if
presuppose
you
S5, right? So I want you to demarcate, or sorry, justify why you're presupposing S5 with your definition and how you actually explain God in extents to reality.
yeah, the reason why I'm presupposing S5 because when we're talking about the real world is a world, right? It's a possible world. It's not a possible world, but if we're saying that God is a necessary being and God is going to be a being, or a necessary being is going to be a being in which that exists in all possible worlds, that would include our world. So the S5 just says that if something is necessary, then it is necessary. I don't know what to say. I don't know what you mean. I'm not saying that it's well. Obviously, I'm saying that it's possibly necessary because I'm saying that he exists in all possible worlds.
Okay,
But
yeah,
that's
the
my
thing is,
opinion.
when it comes to the S5's possible world semantics, it's going to be saying that necessity means true in all possible worlds. This is what gets you from possible necessity to actual necessity, right? Because it's still going to be the same when it
It's
comes to the
not going
modal
to be the
referent.
same.
No. It's going to be the same given the modal referent, right? So if necessity just means true in all possible worlds, then things can be possibly necessary. It's going to be necessary via their own definition, right? It should really follow. That's what the S5 actually is. The judge is you know. So I'm gonna be asking number one, I must like commit to these actual real world semantics when it comes to like modality in general. And number two, your definition or sorry, your explanation for why you presuppose S5 wasn't actually justification. You talked about if a thing's gonna be necessary, then it's gonna be necessary, and thus it's not role. That in itself is the S5, right? I want you to number one, justify why the modality itself and referent there actually talks about real worlds, why you commit to that in general. On top of that, was gonna be the case that necessity would actually mean to an all possible worlds, especially this world.
But
That
why would it
first.
mean that that's just going to be analytic? When the reason you asked me why is it going to be the case that S5 is going to be embedded within my argument? The reason why is because when we're talking about S5 is just referring to the last string of a set of strings when talking about possibilities and necessities. Now, if it's going to be this case that something is possibly necessary, we're just going to be paying attention to the last string. That is just going to be saying that the thing is necessary. Now, I'm pretty sure you're reference towards a different axiom, which is just to say, or different axiom, and that different axiom is going to be questioning why this thing is going to exist. But the question the axiom is kind of retarded. It's an axiom, and when we're talking about this axiom is just saying that if something is necessary, it's the case that this being is going to exist within reality. That is going to be analytic depending on what the necessary being is. So when we say that's going to be justification on why one modal talk is going to be something which that match reality. Another reason why modal talk is going to be something which that match reality is given the fact that we have probability. Probability is going to be some sort of parts or some sort of there's going to be some sort of connection between probability and modality, and modality or probability. Sorry, probability is just a thing in which that affirms descriptions about reality. Therefore, modality talk is going to be something which that matches the instances of reality. And
Yeah, you done.
sure,
Yeah, so when it comes to you talking about it being analytic, that's exactly what's in question. I'm not sure why I can't question analytics or axioms. These things still need motivation. And what I'm actually saying is that when it comes to possible world semantics, what's going to be the case that we ultimately commit to these worlds existing, right? Your reason for why we do that was index of probability and saying it can be connection between probability and modality. Number one, I don't grant that. Number two, if it is going to be the case, what type of connection are we talking about? Number three, what actually inferred that we have these concrete roles when we discuss modality. And in fact, if you're going to be looping in concrete rows, that's exactly what makes the S5 propositional, right? I wouldn't say it's going to be the case that when you say the word
what?
necessity, it actually, yeah, I'm not sure he's cutting me off. It makes a lot of business because I'm not sure why it's going to be the case that we talk about, I think, between all possible roles actually goes to reality or sense to reality, right? That's going to be what's
Oh,
in question. So again, you can motivate that you can motivate that via some connection between probability and possibility. Number one, I don't know what the connection is. Number two, I'm not sure that's going to be evidence for the view. Number three, I don't know what connection you're talking about, simpliciter. And number four, I'm not going to share why the connection exists and asking infers that it's going to be talking about our world in particular. I don't grant that at all.
yeah. Oh my gosh. But when you're skepticizing about the other response about analytics, when you're skepticizing analytics, that seems to be self-defeating. Because all I mean by here, when we're talking about analytics, I'm just saying the concepts or the terms that I'm referring to, or the terms that I'm talking about, is just referring to a subject. So if I bring up the term bachelor is going to have a definition, and is going to be referring to a set of things, the concepts that are being employed. And that's what I mean by analytic there. So that is going to be substantiated by multiple things, like the law of identity. When we have a specific object or a specific thing, the specific thing is going to be in reference towards a set of properties. These set of properties can be contingent or it can be or essential properties towards its being. There must be a referent. If there is not a referent, you're just not talking about anything. And that seems to be defeating where you're rejecting analytics, because I can just say that you're not talking about anything at all, which is obviously contradictory. We're having a conversation. Your words implies meaning. So what you're saying implies meaning. You're providing questions. Those things carries analytics. So the main critique here is that if you're questioning analytics, you're self-defeating your point. It will be considered a performative contradiction. Now, you're confused. When we're talking about possible worlds or the necessary being, we're just saying that a necessary being exists in all worlds, right? Um, so whatever we consider a world to be a world in which that is relatively actualized. So that means that this world does not consist of any sort of logical contradiction. Now, we can say that this world that we exist in now doesn't have any sort of logical contradiction. That is going to be the case. This being can exist within said world. So that's all I mean. A necessary being is going to be a being in which that it can exist in all possible worlds. This world is possible, therefore the being exists within this world. Now, if you want me to give justification on why this type of being exists possibly, I'm going to be affirming the argument saying that if there's going to be some sort of set of contingents, and yeah, if there's going to be a set of contingents, this set of contingents must be explained by a necessary. Contingent being cannot be explained by a contingent being, therefore it has to be a necessary. There's going to be a dichotomy, and there's going to be a proof by contradiction. That is going to be the evidence. Um, Now, obviously, if it's created by a contingent being, it's going to be contradictory. That's where the proof by contradiction is derived from. I already attacked the analytic point. Again, I already gave you the relevance upon the probability point. You rejecting probability doesn't really matter. I'm saying that probability or the justification for probability is the factor that probability is going to be something in which that matches the state of affairs. Now, if you don't consider a proposition matching a state of affairs to be probabilistic or not probabilistic, considerable, then I don't know what to tell you. I'm gonna just say that my framework is going to be something which that is internally consistent, in which I'm committed to. So I could just say that. Just because something matches reality, that does not make it propositional. We have definitions. Definitions can track reality. That doesn't mean that we say that definitions are propositional. That is a blunder.
Okay, when I talked about definition being propositional, they aren't going to be propositional intentionally speaking, but they will be extensively, but just means what they refer to or extend to given the meaning that we're talking about. So
It
that's not
doesn't
going
make
to
it
be a blunder.
propositional.
Now,
It doesn't make
yeah,
it
okay,
propositional.
we can get into that later. But first of all, when it comes to the being questioning the analytics, which is self-defeating, I don't think that is self-defeating. I don't know why me questioning it would actually infer that I falsify it. It's going to be a bad burden shift. I'm not going to be negating this.
No.
I'm not going to negate necessarily speaking, so I'm not sure where that actually comes from. I'm talking about it being substantiated by the law of identity. I don't know. I don't know why I should grant that law. On top of that, when it comes to the modal reference, what we're talking about, I don't know what the modal reference is. I don't know why he's laughing. And then when we talk about performative contradictions, I'm not sure what can be evidence against me, and I'm not sure where I did that. So it's going to be kind of random in general. And when it comes to your whole material condition, which can be the thing that if there's a set of contingents, it must be explained by necessary being. I don't know why it must be explained by that. You said because
Mhm.
a contingent thing explaining a contingent thing is going to be a contradiction. I don't know where the P and not P is, or why it's just in nature,
Sure,
right? So I'm not
sure.
sure where that really comes from.
Hey,
And talks to
I
you
don't mean to cut
being
him off real quick, but official, drop a VC. I challenge you, bro. Let these niggas debate. Go to debate 4.
yeah. When it comes to you being internally consistent, I don't know what consistent means. Your metric for it. Please demarcate these things on top of that. Tell me why I should accept it. And even if it can be internally consistent, I'm not sure why I actually inferred that you could commit to that thing rationally speaking. Why would it be consistent? That metric actually infer that it's some stability condition when it comes to the things we're going to be talking about.
I
I
think
don't know
you
where that comes
conceded.
from.
I think you lost already.
Why was that a loss?
Oh, because everything, whatever you say, it just means what I think it means. So if
And
I
what do you?
think that you lost, that's
What's
just what it
okay?
is.
Where is that coming from?
If it comes from you
And what do you think
rejecting
I
the
mean?
law of identity, like what?
Is
These
how
things,
how would that follow you
th-
rejecting that law? And first of all, when we talk about the law, what do you mean by it, right? Do you just mean to say that A is going to be A and
these
all other things and that's distinct?
things, these things. Well, when you're questioning the law of identity, it's either the case that one is going to be trivialized. So whatever you're saying is going to be trivialized, or whatever anything is going to be trivialized. I can just say there's going to be X, and then it is going to be X. So that's why that is going to be another performative contradiction leading to your concession. Now, again, it's going to be. I already explained how it's going to be performatively inconsistent, because seemingly when you're making these arguments carries entailments. These arguments carry meaning, in which you're using in a specific way. Is that simple? I don't know why you're trying to rap. Now, if you're going to reject that, I can just employ any sort of meaning in which that leads to the conclusion of you conceding. So if you say the word a, or not the word a, if you say the word kitchen, I can just say that the word kitchen entails conceding, and that would be completely fine if it's going to be the case that the law of identity is rejected. Or these things are going to be trivialized. The reason why I don't believe that it's going to be acceptable, at least, is given that trivialization and it being or there being derived contradictions. And given that, you're presupposing that these contradictions can be something which that can exist. So before you try to reject such, at least explain why it's going to be possibly the case, why contradictions can exist within the first place. Now,
Okay,
it doesn't
well, so
get
your
back
point was on
to
contradictions, not about mine. I talked about form of contradiction not being evidence against my view. I'm not
it is
sure where that
evidence.
last part came from, but yeah, you can justify that later. But number one, when it comes to it being trivialized, I don't grant it's going to be trivialized. I don't know what that means either. I should demarcate that. When we
It
talk
could
about
be
something
anything.
being performatively inconsistent, it can be anything. So okay, so it can be anything in nature. There's no P and not P because it's just going to be P all throughout, right? The
What?
word itself, yeah. So we refer to it, yeah. If it's gonna be trivialized in nature, that just means given what I'm talking about, anything can follow. There's no distinction. It just means exposed
That's
into
problematic.
triviality. Yeah, but the question, yeah, what makes it problematic is the contradiction existing, which is not gonna be granted because what I'm talking about is not gonna be necessarily distinct from the thing's gonna be negating what I'm talking about. So it's not gonna be
What?
any P and not P.
There is a P and IP for rejecting the law of identity, bro.
I just explain how there's not going to be. Look, I must speak a little bit slower. I think I'm going kind of fast. Okay, look. When it comes to a thing being exploding to triviality, it just means that anything falls given what I'm talking about because there's no distinction, right?
That is a
But if
that's
the
where contradictions are
hold on,
derived.
I don't know why he's talking over me. Give me that nigga. But if the antecedent is not going to be different from the consequent per se, there's no P and not P because negation itself is distinct, presumably, from a thing not being negated. So again, there's no P and not P. It will just be P and P. Let's be vacuously true or unmeaningfully true, maybe. But the P and not P does not exist because that would presuppose negation is going to be different from what I'm talking about. But that would not exist if it's going to be trivialized. So no, that's going to be a blunder on your part. And then when it talks about the contingent part, right? The thing has to be actualized by some necessary being. Again, I don't really grant that. You said it's going to be P and not P, and the thing in itself, I don't really grant that. It can be brute, it can be ascetic. I'm not sure what the P and not P is. And again, even though it's going to be a P and not P, I'm not sure why it's going to be vicious towards the view. I don't know what's going to be the case that becomes a contradiction that can exist in reality. I don't grant that either. So we have a multitude of burdens that I responded to. You tried to burden
That's
shift as well, but that would just
um,
make you look like you're misdirecting. Go ahead.
oh my gosh, that's a huge burden shift. During my response, I made it clear that you were affirming, once you're rejecting the law of identity, you are introducing the factor that these type of things can be contradictory, which allows the existence of contradictions. Now, the law of identity is saying that A equals A. The reason why A equals A is because they share the same identity. Their essentials are identical to each other. Now, if you reject this, you're saying that A can equal B. B carries different essential properties than A. That is why there's going to be a contradiction. There's going to be a P and there's going to be a not P, and you can say that these two things functions or exist at the same time and at the same sense. That's why everything is going to be trivialized. When we say everything is going to be trivialized, we could just say P, and then anything can be derived from P. And we could say that the contradictions or some sort of contradictory idea, which is not P, can be derived from P. That is going to be a contradiction, retard. That's why it is derived. There you go. Um, Again, the reason why this contradiction or these things, yeah, the reason why the set of contingencies cannot be created by a contingent thing is given how I describe a contingent thing. A contingent thing, by definition, is going to be referring to a thing in which that can fail to exist. A brute contingency can fail to exist. A brute contingency is referring to a fact in which that has no explanation within a set of possible worlds. Even though that is the description, it is not necessarily the case. So it still can fail to exist. If that is going to be the case, it can still exist within a set. And the reason why it existing within a set will, lead into a contradiction if we introduce self-cause is because self-causation is a contradiction. When we're talking about a being actualizing himself, that presupposes that there's a thing in which that exists prior, which is the being in question. However, the being in question or the thing in question does not exist. So you must exist and not exist at the same time to cause yourself. That is entailed within the process. Now, it is going to be vicious. It is going to be vicious because under my ideology, these type of things, aka contradictions, cannot exist, and it's, I guess, justifiably the case. Is because one, I already explained why it leading into trivial. Leading into things being trivial, and that is going to be problematic, and it's going to be performatively inconsistent. We can just say that God exists and God don't exist at the same time. In your position, we could just say that it's true and false, but that's obviously going to be inconsistent with the propositions that we uphold within this debate. That's why it's going to be
Yeah.
divisive.
This nigga's fucking trash. So again, during my response when it comes to the triviality point, to say that A has a certain essence is to make it distinct from B's essence, right? But given that we have triviality, it wouldn't be the case they're distinct because what allows you to say that A is going to be A instead of B is a distinction, you fucking idiot. So again, it's not tracking my response and the contradiction is not going to be derived. This is going to be P and P, which is not going to be vicious in nature. And also when it comes to set of contingent things, you talking about how it can't fail to exist because it presupposes at some point, well, number one, a contingent thing can just have no beginning. I'm not sure it must have. I'm not sure all contingent things have to be created or where that came from. I'm to justify that as well. And then when it comes to the thing being problematic under your view, I'm not sure why. Repeat what I just said.
You said that things have to be created.
Did you not track that point?
Your mic cut out, dude.
Okay, I just said when it comes to some contingent thing, right? You're presupposing it has a point of time in which it began, right? And that's where the contingent would come from. For you to say it's going to be P and not P, index on existence, right? It's going to be the case that it did not actually start at some point in time, but it's always there, but can fail to obtain. It will be the case that can go on itself, right? Possibly speaking, because it wouldn't presuppose that it exists because it would exist in general. It would not be a point of time which does not exist given that certain world. It would be brute in that world, but at the same time, it would not have a start, and thus there will be no P and not P. Now, just continue again. I already explained to you how when it comes to the essence thing, you're just begging the question of being very confused when it comes to how we distinguish things, how we derive contradictions. And I also told you, also the last thing is, when it comes to the thing not existing because it's contradictory, I don't really grant that. The reason is because I don't see what's going to follow that things contradicting can exist in reality. You saying that it's because it's problematic doesn't actually infer that it cannot exist in reality. I think reality can be problematic a lot of the time, so I'm not sure where that really comes from. So motivate that as well. But if you go circle one more time, I'm probably just going to conclude. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, so when you say about the law of identity point, you're very confused. We can say P and P. That doesn't equate to what the law of identity is saying. The law of identity is more depending or more focused on whether these type of things equal each other. Is it going to be the case that these two things are identical? So you saying P and P, that the conjunction there doesn't infer identicality. We could say
Jesus
I went to
Christ.
school. You can say yeah, Jesus Christ, you're a retard. We could say that I went to school and I slept at school. Those two things are distinct, dang. Those two things are distinct, but you can still put them in a conjunction. It doesn't save you from the contradiction that's being derived. Now, again, I already explained why the contradiction is going to be derived. Is going to be the case that we're rejecting this type of equalization when it refers to these type two things equaling themselves. You didn't properly attack anything at all. What I mean by consistency under my view is just saying that there's no logical contradiction. The reason why a logical contradiction is going to be problematic and cannot exist within reality is because seemingly that is going to be seemingly our reality is consistent. It seemingly is going to be the case that I'm debating you or I am not debating you. It's going to be the case that I am debating you. So that give justification for at least one of the laws of identity. Therefore, seemingly all of the laws of identity are justified. It is going to be the case that, uh, for an example, I exist or I don't exist. These things are exist. These things exist. These things are true. I either exist in a domain in which that has atoms, and I'm debating Ernest, or I exist in a domain in which that doesn't have these types of things. So I'm existing in one of these domains and I'm not existing in the other at the same time and at the same sense. So seemingly I have justification on why these type of things are going to be um, justifiable or preferable. Now, I don't grant reality being problematic. You only think it's problematic because your little brain just, assumes retarded shit. I don't know what to tell you. I already explained why contradictions can exist. It's not a question bag. Again, you fail to understand the brute contingency part. If we say that something can fail to exist, I'm saying that there's going to be some sort of principle that is sustaining the existence of this brute contingency. Now, if it's going to be the case that this brute contingency fails in a possible world, that is to say that in a domain or within a circumstance, um, it don't exist. So if in another word it don't exist, that means that that principle that was sustaining its existence in one particular domain fails to exist in another particular domain. Thus, that principle is going to be considered some sort of explanation on why this exists. That's going to be the problem. We can say that. Can you mute your mic, bro?
Let's go ahead. Yeah.
Can you mute your mic, bro? And we can say that the explanation for the contingency is it being, or that is going to be the explanation. It failing to exist. I don't know what to tell you. And that's going to be analytical. When we're talking about set of contingencies, it's going to be one is going to be dependent upon something else. So I analytically justified why is it going to be dependent. It doesn't even have to be created. We can use created in some sort of logical sense. We can say that there's going to be a logical entailment between this being and between this individual, which is the necessary being. I already explained to you why it cannot be a contingent being in which that instantiates the fucking sets. I already explained all this. So it's going to be synthetically justifiable and it's going to be analytically justifiable.
It's Mickey Mouse says, nigga, bro. Again, when it comes to the identity point, you just misread what I'm talking about. I'm not going to explain it again. It's kind of fucking retarded. Now, again, when it comes to reality being consistent in nature, which is just a grant bivalence, either something's going to be true or false. I don't know why bivalence is true. I want you to justify that. When it comes to the thing itself being contingent and thus not being sustained by itself, again, if failing to exist in one world just means principle will apply in that world, but not the world I'm talking about necessarily speaking, right? Again, it'll be the case that it has no beginning, and thus it's not going to be no P and not P when it comes to it existing in that particular world. Again, in some other world, it's not going to exist, so it's not going to be a problem with that. And then I'm not going to be sure why it's going to be the case that, given that things can be trivial and thus problematic and inconsistent, it wouldn't be the case that reality can exist. I think reality can be inconsistent, not ruling out why it cannot be inconsistent, except with Bible lens, which can be in question already. So if you don't want to respond again, we can just
you said it can be problematic. The thing here is that question on why it can be problematic under the sense where there can be existing logical contradictions. I already gave you multiple reasons why it isn't going to be the case that this thing or this reality is going to be inconsistent. Now, when we're talking about my sort of position, to make it clear, I don't even think that I need to have any sort of higher order justification in the sense where I'm entertained to answer these questions that you're positing. So when you're questioning things being true or false under my proposition or under my framework, it's seemingly the case that I don't have to entertain those type of questions, given the factor that those type of things are going to be external. So if those things are going to be external, that entails that these type of questions that you're asking are not going to adopt to the semantics that I'm adopting to. Now, if that's going to be the case, these questions are going to be meaningless, right? So that entails that the things that I'm saying are not actually attacked, therefore not requiring any sort of higher order justification. Now, if you want to get through this paradox of saying and say that you are adopting to my, I guess, semantics to question the framework, I could just say that it's not going to be actually an external question, but an internal question, and the internal questions are going to be justified through the internal process or the internal claims within the framework. Now, that just leads to my position being true internally, at least. Now, again, Jesus Christ, I don't care if it's going to be the case that in the real world or any sort of other hypothesis, what I'm saying is not going to be true or is not going to be possible. I don't care for that. I'm making it clear that the type of proposition that I'm affirming, I'm committed to, or what I'm committing myself to, is to say that what I'm saying is going to be true internal towards a specific framework. So if you think you would take the argument, we can go to conclusions.
I'm just going to respond really quickly to new points. Number one, when it comes to you entertaining these external questions, I'm not sure why you say that you don't think you have to. I don't know where the motivation for that's going to be. And now, hold on, I'm still continuing, by the way, you retard. And when it comes to them being external and thus not adopting your semantics, I don't think it's going to be entailed. Entailed just means it cannot possibly, fail to be true. So I'm not sure where the strength of the claim is actually justified. That's what entailed means, you fucking retard. You didn't say that, of course. You said entailed, the motivation for you fucking idiot. So again, I'm not sure why the thing being external would entail that does not adopt your semantics. And I'm not sure why it follows from that's going to be meaningless in nature. I'm not sure what you meant by meaning there. I'm not sure why it's granted. I'm not sure why it's normative. And when it comes to you talking about that also, I'm not sure what actually entails that I'm not attacking you. When you say attack, what does that mean? And again, why should I accept your definition? And when it comes to you being internally justified through the processes, I don't know why the internal things in general would be justification for our actual proposition. That just seems to be a thing you question big upon. Again, it's kind of retarded. Now, it seems to be the case that you're not really tracking. I don't want to really handle you anymore. It's been like fucking an hour or so. Past that, do you want to conclude?
Hasn't been an hour. This nigga has no good sense of time.
Are you retarded, nigga? 57 minutes, retard.
One. Jesus Christ. When we're talking about the semantics, I literally highlighted that. Yes. Oh my gosh. If you're not, you can ask external questions in multiple ways. If you can answer them in a way in which you're not adopting to the semantics. Now, if you're not adopting to the semantics, like I told you, these type of questions are going to be meaningless. Now, if you are adopting to the questions, they're not going to actually be external. So you confuse logical entailment with just a normal idea of what entailment is. We can use entailment just to further sort of implication. You're laughing because you're nervous. You're getting beat on. Calm down, son. So when we're talking about
22
thing justified, I'm saying that
what implied means necessarily follows, right? It's not very different. You fucking retard.
Yeah, there's a distinction between logical entailment.
I said not very different. You fucking retard.
They are different. I can tell you why they are different.
I said not very different. That means in a meaningful sense, you fucking idiot.
Oh my god.
Because both positive necessity, you idiot.
All I talk about is meaningful things, dumbass. So obviously it's gonna be meaningful, stupid fuck.
What?
So
I didn't say it's meaningless. Yo, this nigga
I'm
retarded.
saying that it's meaningful. I'm saying that it's meaningful. I didn't say you.
That's the point, you fucking idiots.
Old ass nigga
This
named
nigga's
Ernest.
7 and 22 for a reason, bro. Shitty ass nigga, but then dusty ass dress, ugly ass nigga.
I beat you,
You didn't, pussy ass nigga. Never. But Shaggy said I killed you, retard. You lied about it.
Can you put this nigga on mute? Can you put this nigga on mute? Anyways, you can't beat anybody I beat. You buns, bum ass nigga. So one implication.
Yo, are you guys ready to conclude? Like, you guys
Yes, we can. Nigga, we just a low tier 24/7. Something for some reason. Nigga's dog shit. He has no feet.
Can you mute this nigga? Rewind. Can you do your job, bro?
Can you go? No, he's not speaking.
Yeah, bro. We can end this shit. Faggot ass nigga in my ear. Yeah, matter of fact,
It's a sorry faggot. I'm gonna conclude really quick. I'm not sure why he's talking.
Can you stop, broke ass nigga?
I'm concluding, by the way. He says he's not gonna be concluding. I'm concluding.
Something that is suggested or
he said we can end this, by the way. I'm not sure who's continuing.
Explicitly stated. So what I'm gonna be saying is gonna be some sort of modus, like not modus ponens. Sorry, that is gonna be.
Nigga get trash, bro.
You mute the nigga now. The nigga now. Jesus Christ. Now, when we're talking about what I'm saying is going to be just, I guess, not going to be implying some sort of inference rule. And this is where there's going to be some sort of logical entailment. You fucking retard. I don't know what to tell you. You probably need to amp yourself. A logical entailment is describing a relationship where the conclusion necessarily follows from the premises. I'm not saying that there's going to be some sort of necessary relationship between these two things. And that is referring to that idea. And whatever is going to be true, therefore you can see. So we could just add that in there. And yeah, GG's, bro.